Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and we are joined by Larry Elder, a lawyer, an author, a radio and television personality, and someone that I'm quite a fan of. I mean, we have more in common than we have, that we disagree on. Obviously, I'm very much more on the libertarian side of things, and you have more of the conservative side of it, but we can agree on free markets. We can agree on how horrible the Marxist kind of underlaying Marxist belief in the university system is today. Mm-hmm. And something I wanted to talk to you about was we have seen this massive popular move towards this Marxist belief in anyone who disagrees with them, anyone who wants a free market, anyone who wants a free monetary system, anyone that basically talks about the message of liberty is now a racist, a homophobe, a sexist, a bigot, any flavor you can throw at it. And it's become something that, while it might be only a small percent of people that are loud, the media has been pumping it up, mm-hmm. and it's become somewhat dangerous. What do you attribute this rise of, I guess, cultural Marxism to?
It's hard to pinpoint it, but one side believes the other side is wrong, mm-hmm. incorrect, in need of additional information, mm-hmm. In need of a recognition of the Constitution, mm-hmm. and the other side believes the other side is evil. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. If you think your enemy is evil, then almost anything goes. Mm-hmm. You can scream, you can yell, you can shout them down, you can protest because they're evil. Mm-hmm. I didn't say this, Dan Beckett said this. Mm-hmm. The executive editor of the New York Times about 2 months ago said, and this is verbatim, mm-hmm. the left, as a rule, doesn't want to hear thoughtful disagreement, end of quote. Mm-hmm. Wow, what a admission by a left-wing guy. And the occasion of it was that the New York Times hired a guy named Bret Stephens, who's mm-hmm. a writer for the Wall Street Journal, as a columnist. Mm-hmm. And his first column was a column raising skepticism about climate change. Mm-hmm. And several New York Times subscribers canceled their subscriptions. And Beckett was kind of under siege, having made this hiring decision. And he said publicly, look, this guy is going to bring a different perspective, a different point of view, and, quote, I've discovered that the left, as a rule, doesn't want to listen to thoughtful disagreement, close quote. Now, that to me is the crux of the problem. When you have, again, the New York Times executive editor, the left-wing, probably state of the art newspaper for the left, the New York Times, admitting that the other side doesn't want to hear it. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem. Jerry Brown, the governor of California, my home state, recently said, quote, minimum wage economically may not make much sense, comma, and then he proceeded to talk about why he was going to sign a bill for a higher minimum wage, mm-hmm. after acknowledging it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So I don't know what you do with that. How do you have a debate with somebody who will concede that his position is a weak position, mm-hmm. but takes it anyway just because it advances his political agenda?
Mm-hmm. Well, and we see a lot of the people from AntiFa, from Black Lives Matter, they are going after people for being fascists while burning books and rioting and beating up people they disagree with.
And also, Josh, if fascism is ordering private people to do something, fascism is ordering business people to do things. Mm-hmm. Name the only president who's ordered every man, woman, and child in this country to purchase something, whether they want to, whether they need it, or whether they can afford it. And it's Barack Obama. Mm-hmm. Where were all the rock stars who don't like being told what to do, who don't like authoritarianism? Where are all the songs protesting, hell no, you're not going to make me buy something I don't want to buy? Where were they? Nobody on the left said a damn thing. They were perfectly okay with the government telling you to buy something, whether you want to or not. The same people out in the street saying, hell no, I won't go, in the 60s and the 70s. Where are all these people? Where are all these liberals mm-hmm. who want government to be out of our lives?
Well, I mean, free speech today is burning things and beating people up, while someone like Coulter, whether you like her or not, that's not the point. When she goes to speak and she gets riots or threats of being, even assassinated, right. And that's okay because they're just exercising their free speech. But she can't talk. And Milo Yiannopoulos can't talk.
And where are the professors at Berkeley mm-hmm. angry that the administration is not providing enough security so that when somebody is invited to speak on campus, he or she can speak without fear of physical violence? Mm-hmm. That is your job. Mm-hmm. And I believe that along with the school administration and the Berkeley police, they basically are allowing the what's called a heckler's veto. A heckler's veto, which is to have somebody yell and scream so much that people go, well, let's cancel this event, let's not have it, or let's move it to some little place where people can't see it because of security concerns. That's called a heckler's veto, and the authorities ought not allow that.
Absolutely. We should, you know, the point is, on our side of things, we are very peaceful people. We are seen as a violent, angry, bigoted, you know, right-wing side of the spectrum, when in reality we want to talk to people, we want to bring logic to the equation, but instead we hear just emotion and, you know, identity politics. So they see something on TV, they repeat it because they're too lazy to actually look into a point of view, and therefore it's their identity, so it's that much harder to get through to them.
Republicans have a certain kind of civility. We believe that if you argue with the facts and the data and you reason with people, you can bring them to your side. And it's a belief that often is not correct. I had a conversation once with Dick Cheney and Don Rumsfeld. Setting aside how you feel about the Iraq War, the chance of Bush-lied people died, they both said, we wish we had defended that, but we thought for sure nobody was going to believe it, because whether you like the war or not, we followed the advice of all of the intelligence agencies. The CIA director said that the idea of Assad having stockpiles is a slam dunk. However you look at the war, at that war, they did it for reasons that they thought were legitimate and just. And to have somebody chant, Bush lied, people died, was offensive to me. And the reason I'm bringing it up now is because we're talking about civility. And Republicans felt that most Americans were not going to believe that there was this conspiracy, there was this big lie because George W. Bush wanted to be a wartime president, so he ignored all the evidence that said we ought not do this. He just did it because he was a bad person. Republicans did not believe, Cheney did not believe, Bush did not believe, Rumsfeld did not believe that people would believe that. Well, look at the polls. The majority of Democrats still believe they lied us into the war. And my point is that Republicans often don't fight back because they assume that if they just calmly express their point of view, the truth will out. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to fight and fight hard. That's one of the things that Donald Trump, in my opinion, has done, and I've loved it. I've loved the fact that he's taken on CNN, he's taken on the New York Times, he's taken on the media, because the media are overwhelmingly against freedom, against limited government, and against Republicans. And to call them out the way Donald Trump has done, to me, is long overdue.
Absolutely, and as I mentioned, I'm a libertarian, so I have some different views on some of that. Obviously, what we've seen in the Middle East has been going on since around 1952, especially going back to the Iranian coup. I mean, this is something that has been a long time in the making.
I think it goes back almost 1,000 years. They've been fighting for a very long time.
Well, yeah, culturally.
Yeah, they've been fighting for a very long period of time, and it is a massive, massive problem. What do you do when a certain percentage of the world believes that their religion should be the world religion, and if it's necessary to convert you at the point of a sword, I will do that. What do you do when there's a certain percentage of people that feel that way? It's a massive problem.
Well, I have no disagreement with you when it comes to Islam. I've read the Quran, I see the issues very loud and clear. There's many problems, and it's just more about why have we given them incentive to come over? Because obviously, while they weren't just flooding the land for the last several hundred years, they started after many of their countries were bombed, and a lot of them were made into refugees, and then they say, here's a welfare program, come on over, we're gonna give you free money off the taxpayer back.
Well, again, we could talk a long time about the origins of why we have this dispute. I just know this: after the United States became a country, the Barbary pirates were boarding American ships, stealing the crew, stealing the bounty, and forcing the crew into forced labor on their ships. And we sent Jefferson and Adams, ambassadors, to find out what's going on. And they met with some people in an area of the world now known as Libya, these pirates. And they were Muslim. And they said to these ambassadors, look, nothing personal. We take what we want to take. We subordinate when we want to subordinate. That's what we do. That's who we are. And the response was, we're a brand new nation. We've done nothing to you. We're a poor nation. They didn't care. So to act like the reason we have this problem is because of something we did to them or something somebody did to them, as opposed to a fundamentally rotten religious belief, I think is unfair to us.
Well, and I absolutely agree that any act of individual aggression against you should be met back with just aggression. Via defense. I mean, it's obviously a part of life that we need to be able to hold on to. That's why the Second Amendment's there. That's why, we as an individual fight back if a bully shoves us or hits us. So I'm not completely disagreeing with you on that. I simply think that the United States government hasn't helped over time to the extent that they could have. They actually have done a lot of harm as well.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't accept that either. If you look at all the things that we've done, we did the heavy lifting in World War I. We did much of the heavy lifting in World War II. We have lent more money than anybody else. We have forgiven more debt than anybody else. The Marshall Plan, the Palestinians have gotten more money per capita than Europe and Japan did via the Marshall Plan after World War II, and they still hate our guts. At one point, I remember the Muslims were angry because we had troops in Saudi Arabia. We don't anymore. We pulled them out. The Palestinians were angry because Israel was occupying Gaza. They pulled out of Gaza. They're still pissed off. Every concession has been met with additional violence and anger. I think the only solution is for the infidels to drink Kool-Aid and self-destruct, and then maybe there'll be peace. Outside of that, there doesn't appear to be any reconciliation against people that don't believe in your own religious beliefs on the part of Islam. Christianity is not subordinating people at the point of a gun.
No.
Buddhists are not doing that. No. Hindus are not doing that. Who else is doing it? Just these Muslims. And thank God, of the 1.2 to 5 billion Muslims in the world, hopefully only no more than 10% feel this way. And of that number, even fewer are prepared to strap on bombs and kill people. But it still is a boatload of people when you look at the large number of Muslims in this country and in the world.
And we have to also look at the allies of the United States and places like Turkey as well in the past, where we've seen arming of these terrorists, Saudi Arabia arming of these terrorists, and to a degree, I mean, a lot of these terrorists have gotten U.S. weapons, which is a huge concern to a lot of people because they wonder what exactly is going on here. I'm not going to get into some crazy conspiracy theory, but we have to accept that a lot of these ISIS militants are driving around trucks from the United States, using military arms from the United States. Obama, under his presidency, left thousands of guns in the middle of the desert and tanks and massive military vehicles. Just left them there, fully fueled. Things like that, that makes me wonder how competent are these people. And I'm not talking about the military, I'm talking about the administration.
I know what you mean, and I know that you did not support the war. I understand that. And many Republicans didn't support the war, and many Republicans turned against the war. I remember George Will supported it at first and then turned against it. I've always supported it, and I think the mistake was to pull out. You're talking about competence. Obama campaigned against the war. He called it a dumb war, promised to pull out all the troops. He got in, and Josh, his entire national security team told him to leave troops behind, between 5,000 and 10,000. Hillary was Secretary of State at the time. She said leave a stay-behind force. Leon Panetta, the CIA director, said leave a stay-behind force. The Joint Chiefs said leave a stay-behind force. The ambassador to Iraq said that. Our national security advisor said that. Obama did it anyway. And the Joint Chiefs, Ray Odierno, the Army member of the Joint Chiefs, who retired shortly after Obama pulled out the troops, and he was asked if you had a stay-behind force, could ISIS have been dealt with? He said, had we not pulled out precipitously, we could have dealt with ISIS. So however you feel about the war, after you're there, you have an obligation not to make it worse. Obama made it worse.
Absolutely. Well, there's no doubt about that. And just following the war for many years under Obama, he took the troops out, but he did a lot of drone bombing in the wrong places, targeted the wrong places.
And Josh, it wasn't just taking the troops out. Here's what happens. We were there 10 years. Over that period of time, you develop trust in the community, so people rat out the bad guys. Commanders were walking around Iraq without helmets right before we pulled out. That's how peaceful it had become, because the community felt we were going to be there for the duration. George W. Bush said, we will stand down when you can stand up. So people felt that until we were stable militarily, could defend ourselves, against our enemies and be a reliable ally, Americans would stay, like they've stayed in Europe for 50 years, like they stayed in South Korea since 1950. That was the assumption. Again, whether you like it or not, Josh, I'm telling you, that was the assumption. And so when local people felt that the Americans were going to cut and run, which we did, everything collapsed. And then the new government took out all of the people that we had trained, commanders, and put in their own people, put in people that were their co-religionists. So the soldiers did not feel that they were competently led by people anymore. So when the ISIS people came, they all took off. So, and that's, to me, squarely on the feet of Obama. Again, once we're there, you have an obligation to make things better, not worse. And whether you like the war or not, it seems to me when your entire defense team tells you not to do something, you do it anyway, that's on you.
Well, I really appreciate the conversation about this. I always love a little bit of debate, and I respect you a lot, sir. I wish we could have talked a bit more about free markets, but I know you have a lot of things to do here today.
No problem.
But that's something we certainly do agree on. We need to stop the amazing amount of regulations and subsidization and taxes in the market, manipulating the market.
Absolutely.
It's insanity, and maybe we'll talk about that another time. But until next time, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure, Josh. Thank you.
Like what we do here at WHAM? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so vastly demonetized and censored by YouTube. Also check our Bitcoin address in the description and the comments, as well as on the screen for you to scan if you please. And also find me at Josh Sigurdson at steemit.com. That's steemit.com. The future of social media, where you get paid in cryptocurrency to blog and post. Until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
Wow.